You know what one of the most messed up things is about Love is Blind? Whenever the man sees the woman for the first time after they blindly get engaged, he says, "Wow, you are beautiful." And I'm like, "Bitch, hold up." What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today we're getting into my spoiler-free and my spoiler-filled thoughts for the first 5 episodes of Love is Blind. Thank you so much to Netflix for giving me the chance to watch all 5 episodes early for a review. That's 5 hours worth of some messy reality TV, and it's messy. Now, the release schedule for Love is Blind is staggered. The first 5 episodes are now streaming on Netflix. Next week, you have episodes 6 through 9, and the following week, on February 25th, you have episode 10, which is the finale. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Love is Blind, it basically is a group of men and women who go into these private pods where they can only hear each other's voices, they can't see each other, and they have to decide whether or not they want to get engaged, and only then can they actually spend time with each other together. They go to Mexico, they meet their families, yada yada yada, and either it works really well or it doesn't. Now, season 1 of Love is Blind, when it dropped in February of 2020, really helped my girlfriend and I get through the beginning of the pandemic because it was full of a ton of crazy moments with Jessica and Mark, but Lauren Speed and Cameron Hamilton were really the gems from season 1. So of course, I'm keeping my eyes open and I'm wondering who is going to be the it couple for Love is Blind season 2. But before we get into my review, guys, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love breaking down TV and movies like this all the time. So if you don't want to miss out, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, and hit the thumbs up button, y'all, and get loud down below in the comments and let me know exactly what you thought of the first 5 episodes. Which couple was your favorite? Which moment was your favorite? Do you even like this new season, and how does it compare to the first? Now, like I mentioned, there are time codes down below. I'm gonna go through my spoiler free thoughts, and then we're gonna get into my spoiler filled thoughts because we're breaking down who got engaged. Alrighty, guys, so let's get into just my overall thoughts on these first 5 episodes. And one of the things that jumps off the page to me is the fact that this lightning in a bottle effect that season 1 captured didn't really translate too well to the second season. And honestly, I wasn't expecting it to, but there are some elements that I found were lacking in season 2. The living quarters between both men and women were not really impactful. I felt like maybe we didn't get enough time with these contestants to really feel like we could root for someone, similar to how I felt in season 1, where I was rooting for some of these contestants. But here in season 2, things kind of get rushed. A lot of the conversations did seem to be chopped up and cut down, which didn't help when they were trying to inject some drama early on with a love triangle, for example. That also didn't really work for me. In order for some of that drama to really be felt, I do feel like you have to spend at least a little bit of considerable time with these contestants, but they sort of skip over the pleasantries and get right into the engagements, and it is okay, but it doesn't really make for very entertaining reality TV up until you get past the 3 episode mark. After the first 3 hours, things do start to get interesting. Everything inside the pods is quite frankly a little bit boring, but when we get outside of the pods, we at least see some interesting storylines between contestants like Jarrett, Mallory, and even Ayana. It gets really entertaining to watch when they're in Mexico because there are certain things that happen that set up for some messy situations down the road. But honestly, guys, the first 3 hours really aren't the worst thing in the world. There are some bright spots, like this montage of awkward moments was really good. Some of the personalities were entertaining to watch, and it's cheesy. Yeah, it's really on par with the first season at that point because the cheesiness is definitely felt, but I really did enjoy some of those moments. Again, though, when it gets outside of the pods, when we're in Mexico, it is just much better. It's a whole new TV show. Now, when it comes to the technical side of things, maybe I'm just forgetting, but I don't remember season 1 being as overly produced as, well, season 2. There are a lot of jarring jump cuts, there's really bad editing, it's choppy, and also there are these weird moments where the camera almost seems like it loses the actual contestant, like the tracking is off. So I was really hoping for a little bit more in that area, especially with it being a Netflix reality show. Yes, they're not always going to be the best things in the world, but I at least find them entertaining, and the production value seems to be a little bit higher than some other reality shows out there. And there's also this soundtrack, you guys, that's a little too overbearing. A lot of cheesy songs that, yes, try to play up moments, especially in the first 2 episodes, but it didn't really add anything new for me. Instead, I was distracted and thinking more about the soundtrack than what was going on screen, and it doesn't always make for the best reality TV, but hopefully after these first 5 episodes they sort of go away from just that weird soundtrack and just give us that cheesy score, like the score we're used to hearing in The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, you know, those crazy dun 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 moments. Like, that would be fun, but I don't need covers of songs that we probably haven't heard in 10 years. So before we get into the spoiler-filled section of this review and recap, do I hate season 2? Absolutely not. The first 5 episodes still have some redeeming factors and qualities to it that kind of made me want to come back. There's this cool teaser, it's like a sizzle reel at the end of episode 5 of showcasing things to come, and after what we saw in episodes 4 and 5, I am actually really interested to see how this all plays out. I already have some predictions in my head of who makes it to the altar and who doesn't, and there are some interesting moments with parents and how they react to their kids being engaged after literally not seeing this person and maybe only taking 2 days to do so. And I'm really hoping for that maybe in the first 5 episodes, but at least there's a little tease at the end there. So if you are a fan of season 1, you're going to probably go into season 2 a little bit more disappointed like I was. At least that's my guess because of everything that we've already seen. But there's something about the end of episode 5 that made me think, okay, this could get interesting. So if you are a fan of season 1, I say give this a shot, and if you're not sold after 5 episodes, I can understand. But if you do kind of feel yourself hooked in on episodes 3, 4, and 5 even, okay, I'll probably be tuning in with you next week because there's just some things here to unpack that are gonna make me kind of side-eye people. It's gonna be interesting. Alrighty, you guys, so now let's transition into the spoiler-filled section of the review where we're gonna break down the engaged couples. And before I go down the list and I give you guys my thoughts and recap some of these moments, let me be honest. Why in the world did they just forget about the other contestants? They didn't even revisit them. The couples got engaged and they were like, bye Hope, we're not even going to talk about you. They went away from literally everyone, including that one guy with like the really gray hair. But I just don't understand why they just left them out. Maybe there's some sort of budget cuts here, COVID, I don't know. But it was really interesting to see how quickly they just transitioned away from the other contestants who didn't make it. We never really saw too much. We got way too much of Trisha, by the way, and that girl we'll pray for her. Alrighty, so let's start off with the first couple I have on my list here, and that is Nick and Danielle, and they were engaged after day 1. They were the first couple to get engaged, and Danielle and Nick, I didn't see it, and to be honest with you, I still don't. I think that there are some issues there. Nick, to me, seemed very, very nice in the pod. But in Cancun, that little argument that he had with Danielle after Danielle kind of freaked out a little bit, but she had some reason to be concerned. You know, she was sick, she had to stay back in the hotel room, and then she saw Nick go down to the beach and walk with this other girl, and I'm like, hello, red flag. And then there's also some insecurity issues with Danielle that I feel like are going to come into play later on during the show, but Nick and Danielle, they seem to want to work. And okay, listen, all power to them. I really do hope it works out and it's a healthy relationship. I just don't know. There's something there that it's just not clicking all the way for me, and I think that they're one of the couples that are going to get explored even more so after episode 5 next week, because they do get teased. They're having a meltdown of some sort, so I'm almost curious to see what happens between both of them. Alrighty, y'all, so let's get into the second couple here. It's Deepti and Sheikh, or Abhishek, I believe his real name is, but he goes by Sheikh. Now, I'll be honest, Sheikh was getting the villain cut in episodes 1 and 2. He was very full of himself, arrogant. He even told Deepti, if I'm not mistaken, yes, it was Deepti, he told her that his judgment or his way to gauge if he could date a woman is, can I put you on my shoulders? Can I actually lift you up? So he's essentially saying, if you're too heavy, you're not for me. And I'm shallow. Of course, Deepti didn't like that too much, but somehow, some way, they found themselves back around to one another, and Deepti, I guess, helped Shay kind of grow out of those, well, very terrible comments of his, and hopefully mature his mindset just a little bit. But I'm a little not as optimistic as Deepti, because I think Sheikh was resorting back to his previous mentality. He was basically telling everyone at one of the get-togethers in Cancun, all the guys, he was saying that he's just not attracted to Deepti, and Deepti doesn't know this, of course, but you know, I'd imagine she seems like a smart girl, that she's gonna pick up on those vibes, and Sheikh doesn't seem to be giving off the best vibes right now. When they went to that cave, it didn't really work. It seemed like everything was forced, and yeah, Deepti and Sheikh just seem like they have to really work on some things. But hey, good for Deepti and Sheikh, because they both apparently have never actually dated an Indian man or woman, so that's probably a big deal for them and their families. I'm actually really curious to see how their families are going to react. Well, that'll be interesting. And then there's the couple that makes me scratch my head, Kyle and Shayna. Now, there's a big issue with them two, and it's one that the show is focusing on pretty heavily, even up to the point where Shayna left Kyle in Cancun, literally left, took off her engagement ring, went back to Chicago, and said, I can't do this, I think. But Kyle really wants to make it work. Basically, Kyle's an atheist and Shayna is a Christian, and Shayna's not willing to pretty much give up her beliefs, and Kyle is pretty steadfast and, well, not having a relationship with God. So it's interesting to see how their dynamic, well, is going to try and work. If you had to ask me, if we keep it real here on the channel, guys, I just don't think that can work. And all signs point to Shayna and Kyle definitely not working out. Shayna is not giving him even an inch, and she does make a comment that's basically telling Kyle that she is a little bit mature, or more mature than he is. She says like she is older, she can like teach him new things or something, like, oh, you'll learn. She said this in Cancun before she got up and left. So Shayna seems to know what she wants, and I don't know if Kyle is there for her. But hey, only time will tell. So let's move on to our next couple, which is Shane and Natalie. Oh lord, y'all. Oh lord. Shane has a lot of energy. Listen, it's okay to have high energy. I have high energy, alright? You saw so in my Oscars reaction video. But Shane is, well, he's a little too physical. The man is always making these very sexually charged comments, and Natalie clearly doesn't want to sleep with him until they're married, but he continues to try and, well, push it with Natalie. And honestly, I'm even surprised they got to that stage, and they even went to Cancun, and that they're even engaged, because there's a moment in the pods where Shane sits down and says, Shayna, is that you? After hearing Natalie's voice, like, ah, mamma mia. And somehow Natalie saw past that and said, you know what, I love you anyway. So she ends up saying yes to him. They're in Cancun, but Shane is not vibing with Natalie. He wants a lot of words of affirmation. He is, I guess one of his love languages is words of affirmation and physical touch, because he wants a lot of that. And Natalie just isn't necessarily willing to give it all the time. She's being very real with him, but also very coy and playful. So I don't know if Shane and Natalie are a good fit, but they're really trying to make it work. However, there's this lingering thought in Shane's mind where he's like, well, I really liked Shayna at first, and I'm like, Lord, here we go, because y'all know what happens, especially in reality TV. They're going to bring Shayna back, and they're going to have Shayna and Shane sit down together, and Natalie's going to find out, and boom, things gonna blow up. And if I'm being real with you guys, I just don't think Natalie really does feel Shane that way either. She does not seem to be enjoying a lot of his commentary and the things that he does say about her. So yeah, guys, Shane and Natalie, I don't know. I don't see it happening, but I don't want it to not happen if they're trying to work on it. If they want to be happy together, do it. I hope so, but it's just tough to see that right now through 5 episodes. Alrighty, so let's move on to Mallory and Salvador, or Mal and Sal. I don't know, they don't really have too many nicknames for one another, but oh my goodness, the way that this relationship started. And it started off on a rocky foot. I mean, it was controversial to say the least, because Jarrett had just asked Mallory in the pods, if I were to propose to you, would you say yes? And you think she said yes? Heck no, she said no. She loves Sal. So what happens? Sal gets in the pod with Mallory, and then Sal asks Mallory to marry him with his grandmother's ring. It's not a gold ring. It's not what she wanted. They definitely harp on that quite often. I mean, my goodness, it seems like Sal does love Mallory a lot, but Mallory, her mind is elsewhere, and she also unfortunately is dealing with insecurity issues. I mean, we all have been at that stage in our lives, I would say, but it's hitting her pretty hard, and it doesn't help that Mallory and Jarrett had a conversation in Cancun together, and Jarrett brings up the fact that maybe Sal isn't looking out for you and what you want because of the whole ring thing. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna get messy. And there's even a conversation that Mallory and Sal have when they're, I guess, in their own apartment when they left Cancun, where Sal is basically going to get very confrontational with Jarrett if they see each other. He is not happy. He is definitely not happy. Now, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, where is Ayanna and all this? And we will talk about that right now. So our next couple is Jarrett and Ayanna. I'm gonna be real with y'all. They were, for me, going to be that it couple for season 2, and they still might be. Now, I was a little conflicted because Jarrett asked Mallory basically to marry him, and then he had to tell Ayanna that he asked Mallory that question. And good for Ayanna for sticking up for herself and saying, I'm not playing second fiddle. And she shouldn't. And you know what? She shouldn't have said yes to Jarrett in that instance, but she did, because all conventional thinking aside, you never want to ever tell a woman, hey, I asked somebody else, they were my option A, and you're just option B, basically. It's not good. But they somehow worked through that, and they were so playful. They seemed like best friends together, and they were the most fun couple on the show. And honestly, they still are the most fun couple on the show. They seem to have a good chemistry, a better chemistry than the other couples on the beach and now off the beach. But I like Jarrett and Ayanna. The only thing is they're going to have to work through some issues because, again, Jarrett sat down with Mallory and was talking about how he had dreamt of Mallory. I'm like, bruh, you do not say these things. Like, and honestly, you gotta put those feelings aside. You once had that, but now you are with Ayanna. You have your fiance in Cancun, and you're telling someone else's fiance that, well, what could have been? Nah. So that's why I think they're going to run into some issues, because Ayanna's going to find out what Jarrett said to Mallory, and I almost wonder if Jarrett really is going to sit here and give 100% of his heart to Ayanna, having Mallory on his mind. It's just tough to see. So you know what? Let's get even messy. You thought that was all the couples, right? Nah, there's one more, all right? We got Mallory and Jarrett. Because I think it's going to happen, y'all. I'm sorry. I think Mallory leaves Sal, and unfortunately Jarrett leaves Ayanna. Ayanna deserves so much better if this happens. I hope it doesn't, but I can see it kind of playing that way, especially being someone who's watched a lot of reality TV. I can see Mallory and Jarrett walking away together, and that being, of course, incredibly heartbreaking for Sal and Ayanna. And it's just because of the fact that they've already started propping that up. The producers are starting to give those cuts to these contestants, and they even teased the fact that Sal and Mallory are not going to work out. And honestly, it doesn't seem like Ayanna and Jarrett are either. I mean, Ayanna got into this SUV, and it seemed like she had a dress in her hand, and she was kind of angry. So, y'all, I don't know, but Jarrett really needs to work through this and hopefully work on this if he wants Ayanna and him to be solid. And gosh, it's going to be so interesting. That's the one couple basically that I'm looking out for the most, which is Jarrett and Ayanna. I want to see how they play out. I'm rooting for them, and I'm not really rooting for too many others, to be honest with you. There's not a lot of things to root for, and like I mentioned, that goes back to the negatives, is that we don't have enough time with some of these contestants to really root for them, but we got a decent amount of screen time and moments with Ayanna and Jarrett. So they're my number one couple, and hopefully we see them survive, but guys, only time will tell. So there you have it. That's my review and recap of episodes 1 through 5 of Love is Blind Season 2. So when you see it, let me know down below in the comments what you thought of these episodes, and hey, if you haven't already, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, let me know if you want me to do more recaps and reviews like this for the rest of the season. Hit the thumbs up button, y'all, and stay tuned to the channel, because next week and the week after and the week after that, guys, it's about to be very busy. Okay, guess what we got coming up? Uncharted, the Batman, and so much more. Alrighty, y'all, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. I just want to see Shane and Sal have a sing-off. I mean, they both got that little ukulele. Put my money on Sal.